I've gone into this review with a little bit of excitement because the very first product that I ever invested in when it came to getting into digital high-res audio was, well, two FiiO products. This is the FiiO XM5 and the FiiO Mont Blanc portable amp. And at that point in time, I never thought FiiO would actually get into making IEMs or any kind of headphones. So it's quite cool to be here today. So these, of course, are the FiiO JD1s, and thank you to Headphone Zone for making this review possible by sending me this demo unit. All thoughts and opinions are my own. So let's jump straight into how the JD1s are built. The box isn't where the beauty of these IEMs lie, but it is quick and simple. You get the literature in the box, the IEMs of course, the cable, and a small and large set of ear tips with the mediums already on the IEMs. You get a high quality OFC cable with one side terminated to a 3.5mm jack and the other to a 0.78 2-pin connector to connect to the IEMs. Toward the middle of the cable, you'll see a high quality module which holds the volume up and down buttons along with the play, pause and answer and end call button. The other side of it holds a tiny little opening for the microphone in case you want to use it for calls or gaming with your buddies. Moving on to the IEMs, they've got a beautifully finished liquid die-cast zinc alloy faceplate which looks great as long as it's clean. It can tend to hold smudges and fingerprints. The inner housing is made of a see-through high-quality plastic so you can see what's going on within the cavity. There are two tiny openings to help with venting which reduces back pressure on the driver. This should help with putting lesser strain on the driver and your ears over longer listening sessions, and the nozzle that directs the sound to your ear is made of a high quality aluminium alloy. With the materials they've used here, I expect these to last for years, especially considering its overall build quality. Coming to the microphone now, of all the IEMs that I've tested within this price segment, the microphone or the control module has never felt this premium. In fact, this does feel very upmarket compared to anything else that I've tested, because some of them just have one button. This has the three. And the overall tactile feel of them is quite good. So I do have my hopes up for how it will sound overall for calls and for gaming. So here's a quick demo to show you how the microphone will perform for calls as well as for gaming. So I am calling you from the confines of my studio right now. Now it's safe to say that this set of IEMs will not have environmental noise cancelling because it is completely passive. There is no active system going on, and I have been on my phone's microphone all this time, and I will connect into the DD Hi-Fi high-res DAC right now because this does have a pass-through in it. So I will plug into my phone right now and it should hand over to the microphone sometime now, or it already has. So this is the overall quality or tonal quality you can expect to carry over to your recipient whenever you take a call or whenever you're playing with your gaming buddies or through a game. Now, this microphone is reasonably close to where my mouth is, but obviously if it is higher up, it might be a little louder for your recipient. So this is the overall vocal tonality that will carry over to your recipient, and you are sitting in the reviewer seat right now to judge whether or not you like this overall output when it comes to how you'll sound towards your recipient. So I hope this call demo has given you a better understanding of these IEMs, and I will see you in the chapter about sound. These come with 10mm dynamic drivers, have a frequency response of 20 Hz all the way up to 40,000 Hz, and have a very easy to drive low resistance of just 24 ohms. So if you want to plug it into your phone directly or some sort of a music player, it should drive it without a problem, or even if you have a portable DAC amp that you want to plug it into. Now, on a volume front, I did find myself listening to this a lot at 25 to 30% for testing, and for me, it is a bit on the louder side there, so I was happier with this at about 20% of volume. It's obviously very sensitive at just 24 ohms. That kind of resistance is very easy to drive. Now, I wouldn't recommend listening to this above 40% volume over prolonged periods of time if you do intend on preserving your hearing. But coming back down to the lower volumes, even down low at 20% when I'm sitting there, I prefer that volume, but it does lose some roundedness. It does lose some of its depth. So cranking it up to 25 and 30% is kind of necessary if you want that fullness of sound. When it comes to its soundstage, it does perform like most other IEMs, but it does throw some surprises at you. In fact, the stage does exist on a horizontal plane, but there are times when some of the music does appear to be coming at you from just outside of the faceplate. So I say it's reasonably wide. It is enjoyable, especially since it does have good left and right separation thanks to this width, and it has a well-centered phantom channel as well. When it comes to its imaging, honestly, everything in this price range within the sub 2K or around the 2K price range is nothing short of amazing. These IEMs shouldn't be able to give you this much overall clarity, but it is really clean and sharp enough to be able to zone into any nuances you'd want to. In fact, the separation between vocals and instruments is terrific. In fact, between multiple vocals itself is quite good. So even if you're listening to any seconds or harmonies, the layering between vocals alone, it does have terrific separation. So of course, if you do like zoning in onto certain specifics or nuances in your music, and you really do want to tell the difference between anything that's being played, it's fairly easy to do with these IEMs. High frequencies have a bit of an elevation but are not piercing, except for one section that has a tiny peak that I'm not too comfortable with. That peak sits exactly where my phone's notification for locking is on the spectrum. So every time it locks, that one peak does give me a bit of a startle. So I've started putting my phone on silent when listening to these. But the rest of the range is easy on the ear, with cymbals coming through in a soft and effortless manner, and smooth enough to enjoy softer genres like jazz and blues, but with enough enthusiasm to also enjoy heavier genres like rock and metal as well. Listening to Dream Theater perform Hell's Kitchen, the higher range has a lot going on in this track, and it does sit more forward than the mids, but carries terrific separation and detail here without hurting the ear over longer listening sessions. If, however, you are someone who is high frequency sensitive, I can see this being on the brighter side for you, especially when it comes to listening to heavier genres of music. Mid frequencies are recessed compared to the highs, but they do not give you a sense of being pushed too far back into the distance. Vocals do have a nice texture to them depending on which artist you're listening to. No doubt these won't handle this range like high-end IEMs, but you do get a clean presentation, and what I quite like is how the lower mids aren't recessed, so vocals do sound full and rounded. A lot of TWS earphones I've been reviewing tend to have that tuning, which has gotten quite boring listening to on and on again. These carry this range with a lot more detail, fullness and energy that no budget TWS earphone can. Listening to A Million Dreams from The Greatest Showman soundtrack, our very own Wolverine, Hugh Jackman's voice does come through with a full range without losing depth in his voice. Even the separation between his voice and Michelle Williams' voice is nothing short of sensational on a set of IEMs at this price. Low frequencies at first plug-in didn't impress me for two reasons. One was I plugged these in at about 10% volume, so it wasn't too loud. The second being I was listening to a very soft jazz piece, but when you play something with a very lively bass line and crank the volume up to about 30%, these IEMs come alive. This applies to any genre of music really. You need to crank these beyond 25% to get some kick out of this range, and once you're there, I found these to be quite surreal because I haven't listened to IEMs in a while. The bass is prominent without being bloated, so at no point does it eat into your mids, highs or detail. You're not going to lose any earwax while listening to these, and I quite like that about them. This range is on the tighter side and will keep a bass enthusiast happy, provided this individual knows the difference between tighter bass and bloated bass. Listening to Calvin Harris and Rihanna perform This Is What You Came For, these do have more strength in the upper and mid bass than they do in the sub bass with this track. But when you throw Justin Timberlake and Chris Stapleton's Say Something at these, the sub bass wakes up like it doesn't want to be left out of this party. It handles the lower registers quite effortlessly, again without messing with the mids, highs and details. So to sum up, overall on a build front, I think these are put together very well. In fact, of all the IEMs that I've tested, I've usually found not many of them have this level of detail and, well, a premium look to them. That faceplate that this has with that, it's kind of like a black chrome finish. It looks very, very premium, in fact, for its price for sure. But the only gripe I have with it is that it is a fingerprint magnet. So if you're very particular about how your IEMs look, it's worthwhile wiping them down before you put them in some sort of a case, which I'm sure you can also get from the guys at Headphone Zone. And the terminations are also done very well. These are high quality terminations, and they're not going to give up anytime soon. And honestly, I can vouch for FiiO because, like I mentioned at the start of my video, I've had my very first digital high-res player and portable amp were from FiiO, and it's been a whole 10 years and it's still going strong. It is still my portable well, set to carry around with me. So the fact that it's still going strong is a testament to FiiO's overall build quality. And coming to how these sound, well, honestly, these have absolutely terrific separation. I was quite impressed with that. And in fact, I called in my wife to give this a look because she's been listening to the two-tier Holas for quite a while now. Those are her daily drivers. And she had a very interesting expression when she heard this. So I've got a feeling she's going to want to nick these and replace those with these. But all in all, it is a very good performer when it comes to its overall separation. And the thing is, this is kind of sensitive with the kind of music you throw at it is one thing I noticed. Like I did mention in the lower frequency section in that part of the sound chapter, I threw 2 bits of music at it. And normally you'd expect EDM to be much heavier in the bass. But obviously that specific track is not, well, sub-bass enthusiastic, whereas the next track that I did mention after that did have that excitement in the bass line. So it is very sensitive to the kind of music that you will be listening to. Now I also have paired this with the DD Hi-Fi Hi-Res DAC and the iFi Go Link, and I do love both of these DACs. They do have their little bits of color here and there. In fact, I've got a comparison between them. Check that out if you'd like to. But the portable DAC is a very capable device. Today they've come a very long way. So if you don't have one, consider picking up one of these, because this will sound better with a portable DAC than plugging in directly into, say, an iPad or a phone. The internal hardware is not going to be as good. If you want better details, slightly better resolution, it's worthwhile picking up one of these. And these IEMs are slightly sensitive to that difference between internal hardware and having a better high-res DAC. And the other thing is, it can be a little difficult for somebody who is high frequency sensitive, because it does have 1 or 2 peaks. At least it sounds like there is some peaking going on in the higher frequency. So I'd say if you know that you are high frequency sensitive and you do not like bright sounding earphones or IEMs, maybe see if you can look at something else, unless you're okay with playing with EQs. This does sound more rounded with male vocals, female vocals. It is a very enjoyable set to listen to and very enthusiastic in the bass as well. So overall, I'd say these will be a terrific buy if you are getting into the hobby, or if you want to add one more set of IEMs to your collection, of course. So anyway, one thing I do want to mention is also the variant I've tested is the 3.5mm variant. There is a USB-C variant which I haven't tested yet. I'm not sure if I'll get my hands on it, but one thing to keep in mind is FiiO has done something different here that I've never seen before. It plugs into your phone and it has a little decoder, call it a DAC or whatever you want to call it, but you will get a certain amount of, well, coloration in the sense, from what I understand with USB IEMs that I've tested in the past, is it will have its own tuning. Now this is for the person who doesn't want to get a separate DAC and doesn't want to play around with different colors with different DAC and amps. This is just plug and play, put it over your ears, go do your commute and you're done. It's a no-nonsense set. So you plug in your USB, but what's nice about this is that you have 5 different tunings with it. So if you press the volume up and down button at the same time, it will toggle between the different modes. So it does have different tunings that more or less do follow the Harman curve. I've not heard it, but I'm presuming that it will sound very similar to this on its default setting, with the bits of coloration depending on whenever you shift over to it. Now, whenever it's available, I'm sure you can pick it up, and if you do want to, it's worthwhile connecting with the guys at Headphones On to find out when it's available. But it's very cool that FiiO has in fact included something like this. I've never seen anything like this. And to get something on a set of IEMs that costs as much as these do, features like this, it's just amazing. So anyway, coming to its price, well, at the time of recording this video, this does have a maximum retail price of about 1,999 rupees, but it has a selling price of about 1,499, which is, I'd say, super value for money. And of course, you can pick this up from headphoneson.in. I will leave the links down in the description below, as well as the other DAC amps that I've mentioned, and even a case that I quite like from Headphone Zone. So if you would like to pick these up, head on over to the description. I've left all the links over there, and I'd say this is super value for money, honestly. If a lot of people I've noticed lately are getting a bit fed up of the whole wireless game, purely because, you know, they'll use a product for 8 months to 12 months, and the batteries keep dying. They have to keep reinvesting. I'm pretty sure this is going to carry you for years on end, especially if you're careful with them and don't get them pulled or snagged anywhere. And FiiO, well, it's quality, and I can vouch for it because, like I mentioned, I've got stuff from FiiO that's well over 10 years old now, and I would definitely recommend these IEMs to anyone who's starting the hobby, or even if you want to add another set of IEMs to your collection. So I do hope that you found this video helpful and informative, and I do hope that I've helped you make some sort of purchase decision. If you would like to help support the channel, I'm sure you know exactly how to. But of course, thank you for tuning into Paul's POV for some sound advice.